friends, welcome back. This is Jenny from Polly's Paper Studio. Today we're creating this card with many different collections and brands, so stick with me and we'll make this together. A few things to note before I get started. If you hear that sound in the background, that is my small heater going. It is very cold today and it is actually snowing right now. I'm trying not to think about that because I have to go to the post office here in a bit, but if you hear that, that's what that is. Also, I'm not working in collection, so I happened to have this paper pad from Webster's Pages. I picked it up for Valentine's Day and I worked a few projects out of it and I put it away and forgot about it. So I decided I would get it out and find some of the paper patterns that would work for a not holiday card, and I kind of struck on the butterflies, so I thought I would try and incorporate those. I am going to also bring in a little authentic paper and a little bit of Christmas paper, but trust me, it's gonna work out great. So let's get started on this card. I should also mention that this is the 8x8 paper pad. I don't know if it came in other sizes. This is the only one I found. This is a good size for cards. So I have a couple different sections to work on, and they're all going to be individual sections, so I can build them before putting them onto the card. So here's some of that paper from the paper pad, just a very simple dot pattern, and it's on a nice crisp white background. I'm going to add that to this very sweet pink cardstock. Now you could easily use a beautiful dark blue for the pink, but I think this just brightened it up a little. And here is my frame for the focal point. Now I cut this from authentic Easter paper. It's just a basket weave. I cut a rectangle and then used a die to remove the center. I put some spacers on the back, so these are the scrapbook adhesive tabs, and they are only about half as thick, so it will give some dimension but not a lot of bulk. And so I'm just going to have this layered on top, and I cut it the same size so I could take advantage of that pink cardstock border. So here is my top frame. What I want to do is add some foam spacer to this so that I can build more dimension, and I've got that cut to be the same size. I'll add a little Tombow, and then there's also some double-sided adhesive, and that is just going to make sure that that stays right in place. So I'll tip that over and attach that to the back. I've already added some foam here as well. Let's go ahead and set this aside and build the next layer. So here is the most beautiful stylized blue background with pink flowers. So I really loved this pattern. It was the inspiration for this card, and I think that it definitely is a modern take on a vintage sort of wallpaper pattern. So I got that pink background again and more of the foam. You can let me know in the comments what the weather is where you all are at. I'm very envious of people who at least are in an area where they don't have to shovel. I guess cold would be not as bad if it didn't involve being outside shoveling. So here is the second panel, and I'll work on the base. So this is what will attach to the front of the card. Here's my Christmas paper. I don't know how that reads on camera, but it's just a nice foil diagonal stripe, and I think that it looks beautiful with that navy background. So I'm going to add this to my card base. So as I do, I finish the inside of the card with the companion pattern paper, and I'll go ahead later and add a section for a sentiment to be added. This card is going to read as a landscape profile, which I don't make very often, but I just thought for the flower arrangement that I wanted to include that this layout would work so much better. So here's my stripe, and then I've got my first raise panel. That's that beautiful floral. In my previous video I had a a friend asked where was this foam coming from that I use on my cards, and I do get mine from Amazon. I think you could get it from the craft store if you lived close to one. I do not happen to, and until they start selling craft supplies at Tractor Supply, I'm just gonna have to order mine online. I'll leave a link in the description below. It's not an affiliate link, and definitely not sponsored, but it is where I get mine at, and I have really good luck with it. So if you're interested, you can check that out. Okay, here is the base and my first dimensional layer. Now I can bring in that smaller frame. What I want to do is offset this a little because my flower arrangement is a little bit larger. I want to have room for that in the corners. So I will just scoot this whole top section over and up a little bit, and that will leave me plenty of room. Okay, there are all my layers added, and I'm gonna start to bring in my florals. Okay, here's that butterfly I mentioned earlier. I'm just going to lay that right on the top so that it will hold the amount of space that I want to keep that in. Also, here is a small sentiment that I cut with a stitched edged banner, and it's just gonna work under the flowers, but I'll go ahead and sort of lay these out so you can see the arrangement. What I've got here is a combination from 49 and Market, and then also a couple from Prima. So what I did was I picked the colors that were in the flowers in the background, and then a very large white dimensional flower that's going to anchor the whole arrangement and kind of brighten it up because it was looking a little bit dark. A couple more details I'm going to bring in is the foliage that I cut for the background is a cut from gold mirror cardstock, and that just ties in that background paper and brings a little bit of the sparkle up to the top. And then I'm also going to incorporate this butterfly die cut. This comes from the cardstock color in the background, and then these are Bow Bunny dies. I just picked one from the Flutter collection, and it's just going to act as an additional layering element and bring a little bit of texture and detail. So let's work on this arrangement. I'm going to want these larger foliage elements anchoring the outside so that the shape of the arrangement will be set in place. So I'll just go ahead and tack those in with hot glue. I do usually like to layer my flowers off project, but this will give you an idea of how the arrangement's going to work out. Okay, so I've got some loopy twine bows here, and I'm just going to fold them in half and tack them with a little hot glue here at the point where the knot is in the center. That's going to help fill in and soften up those edges, and also help to tack down those foliage die cuts. Okay, here's the flowers from 49 in Market, and they came with leaves on them. What I want to do is pull them off of the back and reposition them so they are a little bit more visible behind all of these beautiful petals. Just be careful not to damage the flower when you pull these off, and also you can tack these in whatever orientation makes sense for your arrangement. So I'll just take them off and then lay them in and see if I like how they are filling that space. And I'll lay in that large white flower here as well really quickly so that I can see how all of these need to be positioned so that I can see all of these beautiful details. Okay, so let's tack in those leaves first. I think maybe it's a good time to add this sentiment. I've got that popped up on those foam spacers again from Scrapbook Adhesives, and I'll just add that here so that I can cover that cut edge underneath the flowers. Okay, here's my second larger pink flower and the one for the bottom. You see how I keep adding that white flower back in because I want to make sure to keep the arrangement filled in the way I like it. Here's a couple of those smaller pink flowers, and they have gold in the center, so that ties in very well. I'm going to add my butterfly on this side, so I'll add this smaller pink flower here, and then here's my die cut. I'm just going to tuck that in, and be careful not to cover any of that sentiment below, because this is going under that larger flower. I'm not too concerned about getting adhesive all over the back of it. I just want to make sure to leave that sentiment readable. And okay, here's my last pink flower. Because I put the first one here, I'm just going to balance that by coming in at the opposite corner. And then here is my large focal flower. I'm going to secure that with glue right in the center. I'm not going all over and crazy because I have a bow to tuck in. I want to leave room for that bulk of ribbon to go under. This is just a very simple bow. I tied it with pink wrinkle ribbon. I didn't add the twine and the buttons to the top because I'm going to tuck it under that flower like I mentioned. So I'll tip that over, add the glue, and then kind of lift up these petals and position that and press that in very well, so that beautiful bow is going to show on the side of my flower arrangement. Here's that butterfly. Now what I did was add some foam spacers only to the wings, because I'm going to add my adhesive to the body and have that stuck down flat to the background. Okay, I've pulled some sequins from my stash, and these are gold. They're going to tie in very nicely with the stripe in the background and the leaves. There's a couple different sizes in here, and I pulled one of each, so I've got a small, medium, and large, and I think that will be a nice finishing touch here to the inside of the frame. I'm going to go ahead and use my Tombow to stick those down. Last but not least, I have some glitter glue. I think this will be a nice accent to this butterfly die cut, and maybe a little accent here for the butterfly just in the center. So that is it for my card today. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give me a like and leave me a comment, and if you're not already, I would love for you to subscribe. Don't forget to hit that bell so you'll be notified every time I upload new content. As always, I'm wishing you a happy and productive day, and I thank you so much for watching. Bye!